right, it's exactly in the middle of the year. Leo ndio ile katikati ya mwaka, mid-year, 16th of June 2025. Karibu sana, it's a lovely Monday morning. Hapa ni Morning Cafe. My name is Freddie Ndimuli. How was your weekend? And how hot is your coffee this morning?
Happy Father's Day, Fred.
Oh, belatedly.
You're doing amazing.
Thank you.
You know, now that we were not here yesterday, it's still Father's Day.
Oh, yes.
All right, it's also International Day of the African Child. Feel seen, feel heard. This is Morning Cafe. Of course, my name is Anne Odida. Karibu sana.
Now that you talked about Father's Day, I also didn't get a chance to wish so many people Happy Father's Day. Mr. David Ndimuli, Happy Father's Day. To all the other men there, out there, including all these cameramen, kama wasita hapa, all of them are dads. Happy Father's Day to everyone. Karibuni sana. Let's take a look at the Standard. Unajua wanaendelea kuchoma. Last week we were to talk about so many different things. It was about the budget, it was about politics, but no, these people dominated the headlines. They're still doing it. Na Standard leo amesema hatuachi. Tunakanyaga kabisa. Shingo, shameless, top cops. That's the headline on the Standard.
Taifa leo sitampa mtu kisu mwaka 2027.
Na kisu ndio alisema si ya kukata mboga na kuna mtu atapewa. Exposed Kenya's arms in Sudan war, and this one is getting murkier by the day. You'll be seeing more of what we're talking about. That's the Daily Nation.
The Star, debt crisis, Westage dominates CS Mbadi, 4 trillion Kenyan shillings budget talk.
And surely now you'll realize even across the region, the discussion is now moving to the budget. I don't know if we'll get a chance to actually talk about the budget in Kenya because people don't really care right now. They're more about the cops. That's the Star.
How Kenya's best paid CEO earns 500 million shillings, and some 0.5 billion. That is
salary yako ikianza kuhesabiwa in terms of billions. Half a billion. I like, unajua angesema 500 million, I would assume ni million too. But in terms of billions,
0.5. Well,
half a billion.
People daily.
Yeah. All right. Matters business. Former KRA chair acquires 1.6 billion shilling stake in Housing Finance Group. We nata hajakaa huko sana. 1.6 billion shilling stake. Kuna watu wanaongea kuhusu pesa na kuna watu wanaongea kuhusu fedha. Hii sasa ni pesa ama ni fedha?
Fedha.
That's a Business Daily. Of course, being a Monday, we'll be having these eminent Kenyans in studio. Kipruto Rapkirwa, who served as a cabinet minister, Makali Mulu, who's a current MP Kitui Central, and Samuel Pogisio, who's also served as a cabinet minister in the Kibaki II administration. Watu wanakuanga serious sana. Kuja studio bana, hata ukiketi na wao, una feel to wisdom.
Business.
Wisdom.
They mean business.
They mean business. Huyu akisema, I'm sure even the president listens. So this is coming away at around 6:30 this morning. Tuvuke border tuende Uganda.
Daily Monitor, Uganda faces US visa restrictions. Unwanted, Uganda is among 36 countries on the list to be targeted by Donald Trump's proclamation to protect the United States from foreign terrorists and other national security and public safety threats.
Now, this is strange because, you know, Uganda had already gotten into trouble with the Democratic Party administration, the Biden administration, because of their conservative nature. Hakutaka mambo mingi ya sijui alphabets nini. So most people thought that once Trump comes in, who's also very conservative because of the Republican Party, then Uganda would be one of the darlings. Apparently not. Wameamua hata nyinyi mkae nje. Right.
Other stories here, emotional cost of Kampala's traffic. It's exhausting. Every morning, Kampala roads transforms into a high-stress battleground. Taxi drivers, border riders, and pedestrians can navigate traffic jams, near mission, and mental strain.
Mental strain. Hata Kenya, ukikaa hapo na your spouse na mjaongeleshana the whole weekend, alafu sasa mnakaa kwa traffic. Afadhali wale wanatoka mapema wanafika kazini within 5 minutes.
All right, inside amended rules on Visili collection, that's the reason page 4. And on the top strip, Kasaija's good budget amid poor services. Matters budget across the region and so the next fiscal year 2025-26 spending plan starting in July appears intently designed to appease interest groups from the youth, elderly artists, and what is this? and personnel of the security services and generally keep the electorate happy ahead of the upcoming election campaigns.
Right. You know, the new financial year begins in the next 14 days. So everything about the budget has to be debated this week and next week, including the finance bill, so that by June 30th, kila kitu imepitishwa, tunavuka mwaka. New financial year. Kama hujalipwa na serikali and they owe you money, by the way, they better pay you this month.
Now.
Because if they don't, you'll have to wait for the next budget.
Yes.
Yes. That's a Daily Monitor.
Kama ni kweli ulisema labda whatever is happening is a distraction. Sababu, you know, we're counting just 2 weeks.
It's 2 weeks, and I'm telling you, there's a lot to discuss and a lot to debate about. All right, the new vision, inside halted express traffic fines project. Hii walipiga kelele sana Uganda. Wakasema wafurahii maneno. There is no operational contract with police. I think it was just a rushed project that didn't work out very well. Ni kama tu vile Kenya unaleta SHA alafu inapata zile shida za mwanzo. If you rush anything, of course you'll meet opposition. Hii ilikataliwa kabisa. Yeah. Kama kawaida kwa New Vision lazima tukuwe na picha ya the one and only Yoweri Museveni Kaguta akisalamia watu. Yeah. Ndio yule pale, Museveni hailing UPDF for contributing to Africa's security. UPDF ni ile defense forces za Uganda. Uganda People's Defense Forces. So Museveni was the commander-in-chief, anasalamia watu pale kwa ukurasa wa mbele wa New Vision. Professor Katerega, wife dispute, DNA rules out one child. We, hiyo ni mambo ingine. Kwa page 6 ya gazeti hili la New Vision. Tuvuke boda, tuingie maeneo ya Bongo.
The Citizen Matters budget. Key areas that need scrutiny. They say as Parliament starts debating the 2025-26 budget today, economic analysts have listed several areas for scrutiny to ensure that fiscal measures do not hinder investment, economic growth, or social protection. Now, issues likely to take central stage are government debt, extractive industry, and of course, tourism. The story is on page 2. Anasema gaming and betting, hii imefanya nini huku? The gaming sector is also facing increased taxation. It's okay, this story is on page 2. Lakini unajua sisi in Kenya we have banned, you know, ads za gaming and betting. Sababu it's a crisis in this country. So I don't know.
But I thought it was temporary. Itakuwa lifted too.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, in Tanzania ni kama wanasema it's facing increased taxation. So our betting ni kama uko kwa kumenoga sana. XCJ calls for balanced ties among state branches. He says for the judiciary to effectively dispense justice, it must work with other arms of the state. Contrary to what some suggest, cooperation does not erode judicial independence. It enables them to access critical resources for institutional growth. Top Court lifts restrictions on public interest litigation. And on the top strip, local authorities set for dissolution ahead of elections. Nimeona Nairobi. Poachers kill black rhino, horn seized in Nairobi.
Yani lazima tu ikuje Nairobi. Yani hata hawezi pitia kwingine waende. Mbona ukusikia kama Malawi na huko Zambia? Wanaua alafu wanaleta Nairobi. Kutuchomea tu.
Kutuwekea shida.
Ujirani anatuwekelea maneno.
The Citizen.
Tuangazie gazeti la Mwananchi, zigo la haki kwa Masaju. Rais Samia, Profesa Juma wamweleza kibarua anachokwenda kukikabili katika mhimili wa mahakama. I think there's a new Chief Justice. Usimamizi wa haki na mapendekezo ya tume ya haki jinai vyatajwa. Mwenyewe ahidi kuwa karibu na wananchi. Ndio maana huyu mwingine ni I think the exiting Chief Justice. Has been quoted on the paper.
Yeah.
But now there's a new one. Jaji mkuu mpya amepongezwa pale na Rais Samia Suluhu Hassan. Anaitwaje lakini sijapata jina chake. Jina lake sijakipata. Kitanzi cha wananchi kwa wabunge, bajeti mpya ya Matters budget also there on the front page. Remember, this is across all East African states. Even Rwanda, they did their budgets. They presented their estimates on Thursday last week. So this entire week and next week, people will be talking about the appropriations bill and the finance bill, in Kenya at least. Hapo ndio kuna letanga kizungumkuti. Utanukaji wa mito unavyozua hofu kwa waishio mabondeni, ni ripoti maalum kwenye gazeti hili la Mwananchi, na habari kamili kwenye kurasa za 4 na 5. Pale juu anasema saa 7 za heka kanisa la Gwajima, mabomu ya rindima. Hao waliambiwa wafunge kanisa ni kama wakakataa. Waliambiwa hamuna leseni ya kanisa. Wakaenda kanisani. Walikipata na mabomu. Ndio wanasema mabomu ya rindima. Kulikuwa na saa 7 hivi za heka kanisa la Gwajima. Haya ndio vidokezo ambavyo vimepewa kipaumbele kwenye gazeti hili la Mwananchi. Wanazungumzia haya kule Tanzania. So tutarejea kuangalia magazeti hapa nchini kwa kina, lakini sasa tuende tuangalie hali ya anga. Na tunaanza na mawingu yanavyotanda kwenye kanda la Afrika. Wanaitaje hiyo kontinenti inaitwaje? Bara la Afrika.
Bara la
Afrika. Na ukiangalia, across the African continent you can see not much cloud cover in comparison to what we are seeing in Asia. Asia ni kama wanakuanga tu huko. Ukiangalia Pakistan, China, India, Philippines, quite a lot of cloud, but yes, Africa. Central part of Africa, yes, areas around DRC, Gabon, Chad, hapo kuna mvua kidogo, na a lot of cloud cover, even as you move towards the western side of the continent. East Africa hatuna mawingu mengi, apart from something I can see on the border between Ethiopia and Sudan. So let's come back home and take a look at how this is faring with us. Tuanze kule juu Mandera, ambapo imekaribia Ethiopia.
Umesema Chad, and I remembered somebody asked what happens in Chad because they're so quiet.
What about Central African Republic? What do they do?
Well.
So in Mandera, it is quite warm. 26 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy. It will get as high as 34, but a lot of cloud cover later in the afternoon. Huko mvua sioni kama hakuna kitu, mpaka hata ile katuni wamekuwekea pale ni ile ya kuanika nguo. Meaning you can dry your clothes very fast. Hata unaweza vaa na ikauke kwa mwili. Let's come back down areas closer to the mountain region.
Nyahururu 12 degrees, feels like 11. Partly cloudy through the day, highs of 19 degrees.
Kule kuna baridi.
Precipitation in Nyahururu 3.8 millimeters. Kutoka hapo noon, it will be raining.
For the rest of the day. Let's go down south to the coast. Areas around Ukunda, it's also quite warm there. 24 degrees Celsius, feels like 26. Mostly cloudy. Highs of 27, which is not so bad for Ukunda, meaning kuna mvua kidogo. 9.6 millimeters. No wonder the cooling, because Ukunda can actually get very, very warm. But ukiona in 26, 27, hiyo mvua inafanya kazi. So not holiday weather in Ukunda leo.
18 degrees in Kisumu, mostly cloudy, highs of 27 degrees. Precipitation in Kisumu, 1.3 millimeters. Hapa anasema itanyesha kutoka saa 10 hapo.
Yes, fair weather in Kisumu. And finally Nairobi. Nairobi wanasema it's quite chilly. Nakumbuka hata one of our cameramen Simon akiingia hapa amesema we anaumia. It's partly cloudy in Nairobi. No chance of rain though. Lakini wanasema pale kuna manyunyu baadaye, lakini siwaamini sana. Highs of 22, so it promises to be quite a cold day. 2.0 millimeters, well, whether or not we'll feel it, tajesha kidogo, at least ipunguze vumbi. So that's the weather situation. Weekend imekwisha, watu warudi kazini. Let's take a look at the traffic. In Nairobi, Monday traffic, inakaa namna hii, alafu ipote, alafu irudi. But I can already see a problem here, which is unusual. On Thika Road, this is a stretch between Githurai before you get to Kasarani. There's a long stretch of red there, meaning there must be an incident. Kama kuna lori imeharibika hapo between Githurai and Kasarani, meaning that a lot of people coming from areas like Ruiru, Juja, mutablokiwa hapo hata kabla mfike huku mbele. After that, Kasarani all the way past Garden City Mall, past all shops, KCA University is looking good. Ufike pale chini, Pangani interchange kama kawaida, bottleneck, lakini inamaanisha because watu wa Thika Road wamekuwa held back kule Kasarani, Kiambu Road unaweza kimbia town sahi, haraka sana. Makadara is building up slowly on Jogoo Road, and I can see also something here as you get closer to the City Stadium roundabout, which is a bit unusual, areas around Shauri Moyo pale. I don't know what's happening. Kwa kawaida kama sahi kunanga magari mengi pale. Watu wa Kangundo Road ni kama wanafanya kazi nyumbani leo. Outer Ring Road pia sio mbaya. Fedha, Tasia, not bad. So typical Monday traffic, watu wana feel a bit lazy getting to work, but Yes, watu wa Marikitu wameamka. Railway bus station pale tunaona Haile Selassie Avenue getting busy. The rest of the roads are green at this time. Probably at half past the hour, things might have changed. Bwana director, tunaomba tukifika wakati kama 6:30 turudi tuangalie kama shida ya Thika Road itakuwa imeisha, because I can tell you this is going to be a problem between Githurai and Kasarani. That's a traffic situation.
15 minutes past the top of the hour. Let's take a look at the GOtv video.
Life is 10% what happens to us and 90% how we react to it, because our mindset shapes our experience and determines our growth.
All right, twende kwa magazeti, and we start off with the Standard, because I just love how they treat the headlines. Shameless top cops. They talk of impunity. Ongoing investigations into what is increasingly appearing to be the deliberate killing of teacher and influencer Albert Ojwang are exposing lies by Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja, DCI boss Mohamed Amin, and police spokesperson Mushiri Nyaga. Mushiri Nyaga ndo ule aliandika ile statement akasema jamaa alijigonga kwa kichwa kwa ukuta. Akajigonga mpaka akafika mahali akazimia. Huyu ndo alisema hivyo. For the first time I think we are seeing his image. Huyu Lagat, nafikiri tumezungumzia yeye sana, DIG Lagat. He's the one who complained. Douglas Kanja amesema mambo mengi, mara anaenda upande hii, mara anarudi. Huyu DCI boss Mohamed Amin pia alirusha jamaa mwingine under the bus very fast, very fast. Mpaka unashanga, okay, did you have time to actually do the investigations for you to actually say immediately before Parliament that that's the person? Yeah, it was a bit premature. But yes, these are the guys. All this comes even as Kenyans pile pressure on DIG Eliud Lagat to resign, lakini he's staying put. Ako pale tu. Na kuna ile sura yenye ni kama huwa acheki. Akai kama
Sasa hiyo utacheka hata kama nothing to laugh about.
Stories on pages 6, 7, and 8, and this continues to dominate our headlines, despite the fact that right now we should be talking about budget, the appropriations bill, and possibly the finance bill. Tuone ni nini iko huko ndani. Lakini sababu ya hii wametukumbusha Gen Z revolt. Today is just 16th. It means we're now counting down 9 days to the first anniversary of what happened on June 25th last year. The events of June 25th. Mahali watu waliingia na msichana anaitwa nani? Shakira. Gen Z revolt 1 year later. Church returning to its familiar territory. Wameanza kupokea pesa tena. Watu wanakuja na mapesa mingi wanawapea. So pulpit mess, they call it. June 2024 remains a defining moment for the church in Kenya after Gen Z protesters threatened to occupy pulpits to correct the bad habit of hobnobbing with the political class at the expense of their flock. But many church leaders have slowly slipped back into their old ways. Stories on pages 4 and 5. And we keep asking, were there any lessons learned? These young Kenyans complained about opulence by politicians. Ile unapeleka kakanisa, umekuja umeshika shilingi milioni 2025. Unakuja unapeana cash. Kasema hapana, wachini hiyo maneno. Kini hivi majuzi tunaona wani kama wamerejelea hayo maneno. So were there any lessons learned? That's the question. So this is the main story. They don't even talk about the budget, but inside pages from page 2, 3. Oh, pages 2 and 3. Ndio nazungumzia budget. Security budget balloons. Hidden knife of the finance bill that stabs farms. So watu wanasema ati finance bill haina story iko. Soma page 3 of the Standard to understand more about what they're talking about. Energy Ministry unveils plan to build nuclear power plant in Siaya. Where? But after that, pages 4, 5, Gen Z revolt. Because yes, we're marking that. 6, 7, killer cops. Hey, and I'm telling you.
The story about Mbagathi, you know how wamejitoa kwa mix. Hospital CCTV footage exposes gaps in police story of Ojwang death.
Hapo hata mimi ningekuwa Mbagathi Hospital najitoa mbio very fast. Sababu ukizubaa kidogo itasemekana ni wewe. So those are the main stories. I will be back to take a look at the cartoon because the cartoon is very interesting on the Standard today. Yes. At last, Kenya Police march into league glory. So Kenya Police are the 2024-2025 Football Kenya Federation Premier League champions. Kenya Police, congratulations, tuwapigie makofi. Hao na timu kubwa kama Arsenal. Same. All right, that's the standard.
Taifa Leo, sitampa mtu kisu mwaka 2027. Balaa. Rais Ruto aiga mtangulizi wake Uhuru Kenyatta aliyesema kabla ya uchaguzi wa mnamo mwaka 2022 kwamba hangemwachia mwizi mamlaka. Lakini
alisema hataachia mwizi. Huyu amesema hatampa mtu. Hatampa nani?
Well, rais asema hawezi kuwapokeza mamlaka viongozi wa upinzani akidai hawana sera au mpango. Au wana chant to one term na hamna mpango huko. Meambiwa hii kisu hamuoni.
Na hii alisema si ya kukata mboga. But surely such a statement, how does it make you feel when the president declares that I will not give anyone? I won't.
Well,
so what's the point of us going into elections? Amesema yapi?
You know, you learn from he learned from the best. Sasa kama
huyu mwingine alisema mimi sitapatia mwizi. Anaweza patia mtu mwingine bora si mwizi. Huyu amesema sitampa mtu.
Well, all right. That story is on page 2. Other stories here, Lagat, beba msalaba wako, Gachagua mwambia. Pressure inazidi kuelekezwa kwa naibu inspector generali Eliud Lagat kuhusu mauaji ya Albert Ojwang. Wiki jana aliyekuwa naibu rais Rigathi Gachagua amekuwa hivi punde kumwelekezea lawama Eliud Lagat. Kule pwani, upepo mkali kuendelea. Idara ya utabiri wa hewa yahimiza wakazi wakae ange sababu tufani ingalipo. Masala ya IEBC, rais hatarini kushtakiwa. Mawakili wasema Ruto alipuuza agizo la koti kwa asiwateue makamishna. Kule juu, Israel na Iran kuna moto. Vifo nchini Israel vyafika 12 huku Iran vikikaribia 80 baada ya siku mbili za kulipuana makombora. Hawa wanapimana nguvu kule.
Wanatandikana proper.
Na masala ya spoti, Kenya Police FC wanasa taji la ligi kuu, wawazidia nguvu Gor Mahia baada ya kuzoa jumla ya alama 64 ikisalia mechi moja. Gazeti la Taifa Leo.
All right. Tuangazie gazeti la Daily Nation, a different story altogether. And this one is something different. It's an expose. So they say exposed Kenya's arms in Sudan war. So a 6-month nation investigation exposes Kenyan branded ammunition, yani mpaka ziko na jina Kenya, in Sudan, pointing to Kenya's involvement in the war by possibly arming the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF. This turns a spotlight once again on President Ruto's dalliance with RSF leader Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo, alias Hemedti, close ties that have upset the Khartoum junta. Sema hapo wana focus. Na mpaka wako na picha pale za label ya Kenya. Images of Kenyan Ministry of Defense labeled ammunition crates. These images verified by the nation show ammunition left behind by the RSF. There's a still image there from June 2024 showing a man in RSF camouflage unpacking 82mm HE mortar bomb type PP-87. And that's how much we're involved in this thing. RSF recently attempted to form a parallel government in Nairobi, remember? To assign charter up to assign to form government. What exactly does this mean for our diplomacy? Ojwang family turns to Lagat. That's the continuing story of Albert Ojwang, who died at the hands of police. As the world marked Father's Day yesterday, Mr. Meshach Ojwang was preparing to bury his only child, Albert, who was murdered in police custody. Now, this is just a very sad story. Pale juu, Kenyans in Israel speak about terror of war with Iran. Naruto turns to same old tactics against opposition. Chatuona alifanya nini? Pale page 7. Hii ni story mrefu tu ya siasa. Rossi was poured at Jacaranda grounds to block Mr. Odinga. Probably those are the things that you're talking about. But ODM party's fury as state-linked killings shake Ruto-Raila pact. Do you really feel they've been shaken? The truce between President William Ruto and ODM leader is showing deep cracks undermined by mistrust, rogue state agents, and rising political tensions.
You see that story hiyo unasema ya president turns to same old tactics against opposition. Basically, Ruto complained about being denied venues during the 2022 campaigns, and you know that is what Gachagua is complaining about. Nakumbuka alikuwa denied ile Kasarani.
The
DCP. So basically, that is what this newspaper is saying. President turns to same old tactics against opposition. Kenya alifanyiwa is whatever he's doing.
Wale too. All right, so that's the Daily Nation. Big political stories and also matters to do with diplomacy. The Star.
The Star, debt crisis, wastage dominates CS Mbadi, 4 trillion shillings budget talk. Country spend 1.1 trillion shillings of 2025-2026 budget to pay loans. Tuangalie ndani. Pages 4 to 5. Na Fred umesema sana right now. We are not giving, this budget thing enough attention as we should. Debt crisis and wastage top concerns in Mbadi's 4.2 trillion shillings made in budget. While the Finance Bill 2025 offers some relief by avoiding new taxes, it raises valid concerns about the government's commitment to its stated policy direction. New proposals in Finance Bill 2025 include implementation of tax measures aimed at expanding tax base and minimizing tax expenditures. And rising public debt is a top concern for Kenyans, with many believing the 4.2 trillion shillings budget presented in Parliament on Thursday aggravates the situation. And this verdict played out right before the country's exchequer boss during a post-budget analysis hosted by audit firm that is Deloitte Touche Tomatsu Limited Kenya, with more than 40% of the participants in an online slide of feedback disapproving of the high public debt. President Ruto engaged Western voters. Asema here are the keys. President William Ruto, when he donated a bus during a church service at Friends Comprehensive School, Kivaywa, Kakamega County.
Amerudi kwa makanisa na magoodies.
Acha wapewe basi waende wani. Sasa basi anyway. UN diplomatic missions call for probe into Ojwang's murder. International pressure is mounting on the government to ensure justice for Albert Ojwang, who was killed in police custody last week. The UN office in Nairobi has called for a thorough investigation, even as it said it was saddened by Ojwang's death. And UN resident coordinator Stephen Jackson said a thorough independent investigation into the murder is critical. You saw, the National Police Service yesterday posted Happy Father's Day, and it did go well for them. It didn't
all go well with
it. Where?
Why are you wishing people Happy Father's Day when there's a father who's mourning because of you?
Walikapata. Comment section hapo, even the quotes. Kama walikuwa na field day. Ruto takes unity message to Luya, terms opposition team rudderless. President William Ruto yesterday took his unity message to Western, downplaying opposition charge to make him a one-term president. He launched a scathing attack on his detractors, accusing them of lacking a coherent development agenda. Yes. That's the Star, fresh, independent, and different.
All right. From the Star, we take a look at the People Daily. They talk about how Kenya's best paid CEO earns $500 million shillings.
Huyo ni anaitwa
Cooperative Bank boss.
Ni Ricky.
475 million shillings pay package. Total salary 172. Bonuses 302 million. Monthly salary 14 million. Hourly payment very close to 60,000 shillings. Payment per minute 1,000 bob per minute. Yani kama sasa hivi tumekaa hapa dakika ngapi hivi? Sasa hivi tumekaa hapa dakika 29 hivi. Ingekuwa na 29,000 clean money.
Sisi tunazindikiza wengine.
Wengine. You can afford to smile. That story by the way is on page 4 of the People Daily. Grab yourself a copy. Kindiki ups campaign to warn the Kamba to join Ruto's camp ahead. And I'll tell you once we take a look at the cartoons, you will see what we're talking about. Kuna jamaa anasema ni kama ameona watermelon mahali. Kemri's future bleak after state allocates zero funds in budget. Kemri ni kama watafunga. Alafu pale juu, Mbagathi Hospital, Ojwang was brought dead. That's on page 3 of this paper. That's the People Daily.
Business Daily, former KRA chair acquires 1.6 billion shilling stake in Housing Fund Group. Anasema former KRA chair Anthony Maura, his spouse and daughter bought a 1.6 billion stake in Housing Fund Group, making the family the second largest shareholder of the listed mortgage firm. And they say Mr. Maura, through Todi Civil Engineering, purchased 81.6 million shares of 4.33% of the bank, currently worth 548.3 million shillings via Housing Fund's rights issue, which altered the lender's top ownership list. This story is on page 2.
Okay, so unajua sasa tunaongea kuhusu mambo ya affordable housing na mambo ya mortgages inakuja itakuwa hapo mbele, alafu jamaa anaenda ananunua housing finance. Yes. Yeah.
Mortgage firm share gains 64.3% in 6 months. KQ pegs 142 billion shillings debt payment in strategic investor deal. On the ticker, interest on Eurobonds to hit 85.4 billion shillings in new fiscal year starting July. The Insurance Regulatory Authority eyes tighter money laundering checks on Kenya's life insurers, and Stanbic Bank's assets under management increased to 4 billion shillings. That's the Business Daily.
Right. Let's take a look at the cartoons, but just a reminder that we'll be having these 3 gentlemen in studio in a short while. Former cabinet ministers Kipruto Torap Kirwa and Samuel Pogisio, alongside Makali Mulu, who's the MP Kitui Central. Do stand by for that, coming your way shortly. Tuangazie Karakacha. Kuna cartoon moja hapa ni ya Daily Nation inaitwa Aiga. Sema national cake sharing. Ni kama ile ni spinning wheel. Whatever utaangukia ndo utapata.
What you need to do, or whatever, because what I get is national cake share. What you need to do is to bootlick, you keep begging, you know, try again, promise a voting block, you become a puppet for you to get the national cake.
Yes. So you spin, ile utapata, inabidi ufanye hivyo. That's the only way for you to be able to get. Lakini ukipata ya try again, we are sorry. It's a cartoon on the Daily Nation. The cartoon on the Star. Nazungumzia what's happening in the Middle East.
Yeah, Israel and Iran.
Alafu kuna Trump pale amekaa upande moja na rafiki yake anaitwa Bibi Netanyahu. Wanarusha makombora upande ya Iran, na Iran pia walirusha. Unajua, they say there's this dome that protects Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
That hata ukirusha makombora haiwezi fika, they'll be deflected. Wapi? Ilitandika huko mambo ya Middle East.
Esther.
This is the People Daily. Pale kuna ni calculation. Ini rat trap ama nini?
Trap here.
It's a trap.
2027 coalition.
Na kuna pesa pale.
When the right time comes, of course.
Kila mtu anatagia pesa. 27 coalitions. So you form parties ndo unangojea ndo. Actually there are people who make a lot of money simply by selling parties and vitu kama hizo. Yeah. So politicians and political parties wale wanna salivate for this. But then my favorite cartoon today is the one on the Standard. Kuna jamaa pale alafu anasema, why do I feel a strange craving for watermelon? So the return of the watermelon, naambiwa kuna big seat reserved for you. Kuna deputy president ametumwa on a mission. Naambiwa enda tafute huyo jamaa. Sini huko karibu na kwenyu, asema ni cousins huko. Tafute huyo jamaa. Alafu why is there a feeling and why is everyone suspecting that Kalonzo Musyoka is the one to bolt out from the opposition?
Actually think he's
and
not
join
the one.
government.
Sababu, you remember President said that he actually called him but ni akakataa.
Yeah.
So why this time?
Mbona sasa wanasema ni anafikiria ati he's craving for watermelon?
Kumwekelea.
Hiyo wamemwekelea. Ugamzo cartoonist wa the Standard. All right, these are just some of the discussions we'll be having. Of course, we've talked about the state of the nation. But remember, being a Monday Blitz is coming up at around 8. Duncan Mutu and Fred Arocho will be in studio alongside these analysts, Annette Washira, Ken Kabethi, and Katela Macy. Katela Macy pia apenda reggae sana.
Ni wetu huku.
Ni wetu. They'll also be hosting Vincent Enos Mutoka, who's the FC Leopards presidential aspirant. Stand by for that. Later,
Now this conversation. Today we are having the right to identity. Every child deserves to know their father. Clarence Ondabu, a lawyer, will be here for this conversation.
Very timely. Just a day after Father's Day. Every child deserves to know their father. Hata kama tutaipoint tuseme tu ndio yule, bas, yeah.
Hata kama ni picha.
Hata kama
weka jina ya baba kwa ID ya mtoto ama ukwe sued.
Right.
Meanwhile, interact with us on our socials, TV47 Kenya on Facebook and on YouTube, on X at TV47SKE. My handle is at Anna_Dida. The hashtag is Morning Cafe.
My handle is at Fred Indimuli, but as we had promised, we'll take a look at Thika Road once again, and you can see hiyo shida sasa ime compound. It's coming all the way from Kenyatta University, that's a traffic, all the way, actually getting to Muthaiga. So if I told you on Thika Road, this is a nightmare. I'm sorry, this is a nightmare. If you can avoid Thika Road today, jam imeanzia KU, all the way to the Pangani interchange. That's the situation.
Unasema if you can avoid Thika Road. Mtu ajaamka asiamke, jaribu kesho.
Akae, work from home.
Kesho.
Hata kesho ni siku.
Stay with us.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home, do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water.
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50 going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, Grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwa watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
As investigations into the murder of teacher and blogger Albert Ojwang continues, questions have continued to arise as to whether the teacher will get justice. As of today, only 3 people have been arrested and released, with just less than 48 hours left for the Director of Public Prosecutions to complete their investigations.
Also tread carefully.
Today, religious leaders came out to press for justice for Ojwang's family.
We want to see what was the reason. Why did Albert Ojwang die? Who was responsible? What the allegations that Albert Ojwang came with?
This comes as controversy over time and place of death bugs online after CCTV video recordings at Mbagathi Hospital showing that the late Ojwang arrived at the hospital at 1:35 p.m, already dead, with injuries to the head and other parts of the body.
Anybody, everybody who is involved, he should step down. If they later are found not guilty, no problem. They'll be reinstated to their places of work. If they are found guilty, they must face the full law of the nation.
These church leaders are concerned by the extrajudicial killings in the country and the use of excessive force by the police, calling on President William Ruto to make reforms in the security sector to ensure that police execute their mandates under the law.
The whole process needs to be investigated by the relevant bodies. Whether it is IPOA, whether it is ESCC, all the relevant bodies needs to rise up.
They have called on authorities to inspect the action of police and conduct a thorough investigations into the killings of teacher and blogger Albert Ojwang, as well as extrajudicial killings, and have those responsible held accountable. As investigations intensify, also 3 suspects in custody with Albert have been rearrested. Jean Amito Abwao in Muthagari Police Station, Collins Karani Iweri in Kileleshwa Police Station, and Brian Mwaniki Njue at Kilimani Police. They are all interrogated as this probe continues. Sheila Chelangat for TV 47.
Yes, the story that simply refuses to leave our headlines. It is one of the biggest talking points. On the Standard, they say shameless top cops, talking of impunity, with the images of Kenya's top security bosses, beginning with the IG of Police Douglas Kanja, his deputy Eliud Lagat, the DCI boss Mohamed Amin, and police spokesperson Mushiri Nyaga, who signed the initial statement that said that Albert Ojwang had actually banged his head on the wall to the level where he died. And the Standard juxtaposes this story against what's happening with the Gen Z. 1 year later, church returning to its familiar territory. Allow me to introduce my panelists this morning, beginning on my immediate right, Kipruto Rapkirwa, who has served as Agriculture Minister in the Kibaki 1 administration, and before that as MP for Cherangani. Karibu sana.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Next to him, we have Samuel Pogisio, who has served as ICT Minister in the Kibaki 2 administration, also served as Senate Majority Leader in the 12th Parliament, while serving as Senator for West Pokot. Before that, he was MP Kachiliba constituency. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much.
Makali Mulu, MP Kitui Central, also joins us this morning. Good morning, karibu sana.
Thanks.
Ideally, we should be speaking about the budget. It's two weeks to the end of the financial year. The budget estimates were presented before Parliament officially last week. This is the kind of discussion we should be having. And even last year, that was the main discussion, budget-making process. But this time round, we're talking about something else, curiously, still linked to the killing or extrajudicial killings of young Kenyans. Where are we getting it wrong, Bwana Kirwa? Would the president or the top officials of this administration have wanted this to be the discussion at this time?
Well, I don't think that was their intention, but I think obviously we have to talk about it, not because somebody was killed, but the circumstances under which he was killed and the conflicting stories from those who said he banged his head on the wall, the times he was supposed to be in city mortuary, the time he was supposed to be in the cell, the time he was supposed to be at Mbagathi hospital. All those factors have conspired to point a finger at the police force. And of course they call it police service, but I refuse to call it a police service, given the fact that what they are doing is something akin to what the colonial system did to many of our people. I do not understand, and I do appreciate that the outrage Kenyans have shown perhaps will be able to make the government realize it is not just taking away somebody's life and you expect to be business as usual. Why do I say this? Many other people are being pointed at, and I don't want to name names because it's already in the public domain. But what is baffling me are the initial people who went to pick this young man from his home. The names were mentioned at the beginning, but nobody has been able to tell us what was the assignment, who gave them that assignment, because they are people of interest. And I just want to beg the current regime that this is how a nation can degenerate into anarchy. And I thought last week that they will be able to learn something from Haiti. Haiti was repressive regimes that were trying to overstay in power, that forced people into having alternative ways of securing themselves. And that's why in Haiti, the thugs have taken over the streets. And that's why even our forces in that place are facing a lot of challenges. So it is not easy when politicians make statements and do the things they have done. I heard the head of state the other day saying that he's not going to hand over to us because we do not have an agenda, we do not have a vision. And he should realize that the temporary custody of apparatus of power bestowed upon him by the instruments of state and the Constitution are temporary to the extent that if the numbers will not be in his favor, or rather it does a tallying center away from State House. Mm-hmm. Otherwise he will be evicted and will be shamed, and he may not like it, but he will realize that he's just an individual who will have become former head of state with no respect at all for the Constitution and the law.
And of course, what you've just mentioned is features on the front page of Taifa Leo, anasema sitampa mtu kisu. But back to this discussion of the police. And this is almost 1 year following similar incidents where young Kenyans were killed extrajudicially by police as they discussed or as they agitated about the budget-making process and the discussions around there. For it to happen around the same time a year later means probably we've not learned anything. Who should we blame this time around? Is it simply police impunity, that they feel nothing can happen to them and they can keep doing this over and over again? Bwana Pogisio.
Fred, first of all, we continue to empathize and even really feel for the family of Albert Ojwang. The late Ojwang was murdered in under very mysterious circumstances. The one thing about the 1 year anniversary, it is coming up, I think, this week.
Next week.
next week. Coming up next week, and it's going to be very interesting to put things together, to piece things together. About 1 year supposed to give us a time to learn. And you come 1 year later, and we're exactly where we were the year before. You know, as we mourn and talk about this Albert Ojwang situation, you could hear in Rift Valley that people also were abducted and found dead. So these things are continuous. Means the instruments of power cannot go silent on these things. They have to speak up about them. And so I can see in the news that the names and the photos of those people. They say the shameless top cops. None of those people have given us the confidence to trust what they have said. And there is something that we keep talking about, which is intolerance, which is growing intolerance in this country. And it's spreading all over the region. Intolerance to opposition, intolerance to criticism. And yet once you occupy a position of power, you expect people to actually criticize you. You know, when you say, for example, when the president says that the opposition have no agenda, but the agenda is one, to remove you from power. It's not up to them to give you the manifesto, really. But they have one agenda, and his agenda is to try and overcome that by being good to the people. Fred, when we say we are here on the state of the nation, it's the state of the citizen, the Kenyan citizen. How are they at this moment feeling? And I think that sometimes we forget that. We think the state of the nation is about us. It's about the ordinary Mwananchi. How is he feeling right now about the issues going on in the country? Even if you go to class, to church every Sunday and try to placate that situation, it follows you. Why? Because the people are, as I say, suffering. The real situation out there is very tough for our people. And so when you make it look like it's light, take it lightly, that people can just disappear, people can just be killed, the answers are within those people. They cannot be anything more than those people. And by the way, from now on, because of social media and so on, people are even helping them collect evidence if they want. They can even get help from people. Because I saw yesterday in the Bagadi hospital CCTVs that when they switched off or tampered with the ones at Central Police Station, they forgot to rush to Bagadi to do the necessary there. Or to any other hospital, because supposing they had gone to Kenyatta Hospital. So I'm just saying this, that they need better come out with the truth and just say, okay, guys, the first original story that we gave, that was hogwash. And the person who gave that story must also be held to account. The real story is this one. Let's get over with. Those who get caught in the matter got to face the law. And those who can get away, let them get away, but let it be known that the truth has been given about what really happened. So yeah, this country needs to come to that fact. And by the way, one of the things that I must give it to politicians, when they are speaking in front of the public, they are saying, we need these people to be taken, to take action. But they are part of the action, surely. I mean, if you want people to take action, just tell so-and-so, now you step down, so-and-so you step down. I mean, you don't have to speak to us about it, because you have the power to do so. So I do wish that we become very serious, and I hope this week, as we start today, this week, that matter should close.
Right. Wanamakali Mulu, we saw the kind of outrage in Parliament, in both houses, as you members and your colleagues discussed this matter, and people would have expected some consequence from that. Up till now, nothing has happened. The four gentlemen, who definitely one or two of them have made a mistake, or an error, or omission or commission, they're staying put. So what is the consequence of that outrage we saw in Parliament, whether in the National Assembly or the Senate?
Thank you, Fred. You know, Fred, the reason why this story is not dying and it will not die soon is because from the word go, it has been a series of lies. From the arrest, the time they reported in the Central Police Station. Now you see what is coming from Bengali. And it's obvious. You cannot sustain lies. At the end of the day, the truth will come out. And not until the truth comes out, that now you will not be able to report on anything on this report. So once we get the truth, that's the time you'll be able to say, now we can move to another story. But what is happening, when you look at our constitution, it's a very basic cardinal responsibility of the government to protect people and property. And what is happening now of late is that the government has run away from that responsibility. They have actually let Kenyans be on their own matters security. You'll be surprised. Our colleagues in Parliament, both Senate and have already made a lot of noise. But I've been asking myself, most of them are in what we call the majority side. The majority side is the one which champions government business in the House. How come it has been difficult for them to go and tell the president, because it's the appointing authority, that we want this particular person step aside? It has happened in the past, and I can tell you for sure, these colleagues have been ministers in the past. If the president wants you to step down, even if we have tenure, what they call the tenure of that office, the security of the office, you can always step down. Pressure can be applied to you indirectly to a level that you resign on your own. You just write a letter and you resign. But the reason why it's not happening, because these senior security officers know that they have protection from the highest office. And that's why we have a problem. And it is very unfortunate. This country, as we are afraid now, I think it has become, when you look at us as Kenyans, it is easier now for a common mwananchi to be shot by the police or killed by the police than a criminal, an armed criminal. The question is, do you want to have a state where an armed criminal can easily walk freely in Kenya while no more Kenyans are being shot left, right, and every other corner? And this is what we're saying, this cannot continue. So I think what we need to do is basically, as Honorable Pogisha is saying, with technology now, it's very easy to nap everybody. They are able to follow people with these phones. Within a day, you can get someone from wherever they are. How come they are not able to sort out this issue? Basically because the state is protecting the individuals involved. And I think we've said it many times that let's forget dealing with these junior officers who did either you locked somebody in the cell or you arrested the people. Let's deal with the person who gave the orders, because police, although I'm struggling to call it a service, as Honorable Kiro was saying, the police force is an orderly force that you act on orders. You can't act before you get an order from your boss. So why is it that the person who gave the order that go arrest this particular individual and do 1, 2, 3 to them, we are not being told who gave that order, and we are not seeing that person in court? So I think time has come when we must say people must be accountable for their actions, and not until we see now the person who gave that order being either out of office or being in court, that then this matter will never die. And I tell you, it is very painful when you see a parent saying, I presented myself in Nairobi with a title deed to secure the freedom of my son, but now I'm going back home with a death certificate.
Very sad.
It's very, very hurting.
Yeah.
And that's where we are, Fred.
Let's take a short break. We'll be back to continue a bit with this discussion before we move to other things. You're watching Morning Cafe.
world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth, as long as it is strong and stable.
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV 47. We continue with this story that simply refuses to leave our headlines. It is about the gruesome killing of a teacher and also blogger, Albert Ojwang. The standard terms it impunity simply because these police bosses who obviously done something wrong have simply refused to step down. And I just want to, because I know at least you were there back then, back in 1991,
Yes.
where a similar case that generated a lot of controversy with the killing of a cabinet minister, Ruto. And one of his cabinet colleagues was accused in public. And this was someone who was very close even to the president, to the head of state. But to manage, or at least to pacify, or to even give confidence to the public, that cabinet minister had to resign. And at least was taken behind bars for a few days. Okay, fine, later he was not declared guilty, but that at least showed that there was something happening. How come that cannot be used this time around?
Well, I think I can say the current regime is full of people who are very obstinate. They do not care that occupying that public space means you have surrendered to your privacy and you are now subject to public scrutiny. And that's why at times I think the president forgets that he's the president of the republic. And when we are referring to him, it is not William Ruto, the man we knew. It is the president who has been given the power and the opportunity to preside over the destiny of this country for the next couple of years or so. That is where we find ourselves getting wrong. The second issue, apart from the fact that the Honorable Biwott was even arrested at that particular time and relieved of his duties, he was taken for some time until they did not find direct evidence linking him to the case. And that was good for the public outrage to go down. I also remember the death of Bishop Muge. There is a cabinet minister who has said if he goes to Busia, he will not come back alive. And when the bishop died on road accident, that minister was relieved of his duty. This therefore means that the least Eliud Lagat could have done for us is at least step aside until this matter is fully exhausted and is found not to be culpable in terms of whatever happens to the young man, Albert Omondi Ojwang. And also there are still yawning gaps, Fred. For example, Central Police and Mbagathi, there are many other hospitals in between. I would have expected from Central Police, the nearest place, which is a public hospital, is Kenyatta National Hospital. To take it all the way to Mbagathi, if somebody was critical, was actually to allow him to die properly. Or possibly they thought Mbagathi, because it's on the fringes of town, they would be able to smuggle in the body and make it appear that the young man died in hospital. The second issue, which is also important, we've been told OCS Talam was not in the office, he was somewhere else, that was described clearly by the media. But there is no police station that can be left without somebody being in charge. We would want to know who was in charge, and how did the body or the young man get brought in? If people are not able to describe the people who took Ojwang all the way from Homa Bay, today, if for some reason the Honorable Bogisha and I decided to take the Honorable Makali Muli to a police station, they will ask us, who are you? And why have you brought him? They will not accept just to take him in unless we are police officers or people charged with the responsibility of doing that particular job. So who brought in this young man or his body to the mortuary, not to the mortuary, to the cell? And why is there conflict between the hours of the cell and the hours indicated in the mortuary entry? So these are some of the issues that we realized from the beginning of time. It was a cover-up. They did not want this thing to be known, or they thought the public was just going to take it easy. Because after all, they have killed so many other people. And when you tell them, they talk of Ribayala and other rivers. Whether I die in Ribayala, whether my body is on the road or wherever, somebody will have died nonetheless.
And that's the issue, Bonapogisio, the fact that we are marking 1 year since the events of June 25 last year. A lot of people died, many people lost their lives, but you don't seem to have learned anything. Even the same kind of behavior, and this is the story still on the front page of the Standard, points to this, that even after that Gen Z revolt, which was talking about discontent about the kind of opulence politicians were showing, the kind of link with the churches and the millions they were taking to churches, we seem to be back there exactly 1 year later. What does it mean that therefore the state did not take Kenyans seriously, or have we become so lethargic as a people that we have also forgotten about what we went through?
Alfred, I think, as they say, the internet does not forget. Sometimes the government thinks that the internet forgets. 1 year is such a short time, and the young people, the Gen Zs that time, made it very clear. And what their demands were, including the one that you're talking about, there were many things that the president acted on at that particular time. For example, they were supposed to, for example, reduce the number of advisors in cabinet, among cabinet or in government. They were supposed to, disband, remove some of the people who were in government, and which they did. And then some of them came back. The whole thing was a demand for justice and for the stop of extrajudicial killings or abductions. Did we learn anything? 1 year later, it is still on top of. The one that still baffles me is the dangling of cash to churches and making them again fall prey to the routine. Everybody now just don't have to call a meeting anymore. You just wait for Sunday and you decide, I'm going to this church because it's ready. Fortunately for us all, or unfortunately for us all, for some time, the Gen Zs had been suppressed enough that everybody thought this thing had gone away. And so they felt like, but the fact that it's coming back and they're going to mark this anniversary, which is coming up, is to show you that people don't forget. They may be quiet and silent, but they are not forgetting what they demanded. And so it's up to the government now to say, let's go back to that script. What did they really say that time? Can we revive that and see what we can do to remedy the situation? And it is the thing that's going to be used as a marking scheme for this government, for this administration. Because you say we're going to do this, and you said we're going to do this, and you said we're going to do this, and you're breaking all those rules. The level of impunity needs to come down. The level of opulence, the things that people show us today, including this thing they call empowerment programs for women. It's just a way of showing that you guys, your state of affairs, we don't care. We have money. This is our money. And some of that money you will wonder, surely, is this not money which is meant for the public, for these people, in the first place? You know, is it not meant actually for these women in the first place? I mean, you're coming to say, we want to give you a favor. Where is this money coming from? And what are they indicated as for? So, and now as we go towards a new budget, you'll begin to ask questions, is this some of the money that's put in the budget for this kind of things? So I really want us to appreciate the fact that the Gen Zs suffered, the families in this country suffered. There are still fresh wounds from last year. And adding more and more of these things makes the country just more angry, which we keep saying, angry and hungry. And so I do agree that it's about time that people, Kenyans, see this administration for what it is. Look at it. Every Sunday when they go to speak in church, it's, in fact, I want to go back to the churches and say, what are you guys doing? After you have preached a very good sermon, which should be actually the last thing I go with, then you allow political speeches. Now that removes all that I had heard before.
It was one of the demands by Gen Zs last year that churches stop giving politicians opportunities on Sunday. And they complied for a while. Then even the president went as far as directing all public officers not to engage in Harambes. All that is gone. Now you're talking about empowerment. You sit in the Budget and Appropriations Committee. Is there any such money or any such appropriation for empowerment of women?
You know what is happening, and I think we have said it many times in this show, is that there is a lot of talking in this government as opposed to action. And look at the Gen Zs. You remember when the CS Treasury was presenting his budget proposals in the Parliament, what did he do? He said, I request all of you to stand up for 1 minute as a show of respect for those who lost their lives last year during the Gen Z demonstrations. And there was nothing to compensate them. Being the finance minister, you should have said, let's observe 1 minute. But in addition, I have made a proposal in this budget of this March to compensate the families. That will have been a complete statement, which makes sense to Kenyans. But just saying, observe a minute, and looking at what they are doing with the money. Picking it from where Honorable Pogisi has left it, the issue of the economic empowerment. You know, anytime you sit down there watching television and you see our neighbor, DB Kidiki, saying, Raisi ametuma milioni 3, imepeana yangu bili, then with all the members of parliament, the MCs, because they will have dished some money to them to give also, you are likely to raise about 7 million. And that's the money now they say, this economic empowerment. But what follows immediately? Immediately they do that. There's a long queue of women, men, and young men. Each 250 shillings, 250 shillings. And the rest, they go with the money. So you ask yourself, is it economic empowerment for the leaders or for the needy Kenyans? And even despite that, the last time I checked, economic empowerment had a different meaning. It's not what we are seeing. We are seeing leaders dishing out handouts. And they even brag about it. This is our money. It's our money. We are free to give it to Kenyans. But the question is, I'm a member of parliament, and I've been there for long now. I can tell you for sure I cannot afford to be giving every weekend 100,000 out of my income. So that money must be coming from what we are seeing here. And we ask that question when we are discussing the budget. The combined allocation for the office of the president and the deputy president, recurrent expenditure, is 11 billion. Could this be the money which is being used for that purpose? But also at the same time, NIS budget has been increasing. This year alone is 51 billion. And you know, generally by design, that is termed as a confidential vote. So could this man be finding itself also to some of these areas? So we are saying really, if we are serious about economic empowerment, can we come up with programs and projects which are sustainable? And I think we are not short of people who can help them develop proper economic empowerment programs so that we do things which can help this country into the future. But look at the president. When he was campaigning, he promised Kenyans that there would be no extrajudicial killing. Are we seeing it? He promised that when I become the president, I will not be borrowing. Are we borrowing? So a number of the things he promised, very few have been achieved. And that's what we are saying. Is it a situation where you talk and do things differently? And if that is the case, then matters of accountability, matters of integrity, matters of good governance, are we aligned to them? And the answer is no. And that's what we are saying. President Ruto has no business asking the opposition what is the agenda. Agenda number one is to remove him out of office so that we can have now the space to plan for this country properly.
All right.
Because so long as he's there, you can't implement another agenda.
Okay.
So he has no reason of being worried. He just needs to know that everybody now, and I think it shouldn't be the agenda of the opposition. I think it should be the agenda of Kenyans.
Okay.
To get him out of office so that we can plan for this country.
Speaking of the president and that statement about the opposition, it is a subject of one of the stories we've done here, where he has criticized the opposition and he said he will not hand over leadership to them because they lack policies and vision. Curiously, he was in a church in Western Kenya where he made a donation of a bus. Let's watch that story.
President Ruto has emphasized that his opponents do not have an agenda to help citizens, but are only focused on removing him from power.
Hawa watu wengine hawana mpango, musipoteze na we cannot hand over to people hawana mpango. Ati mpango yao Ruto must go. Sasa Ruto must go itakusaidia na nini? Hujui vile vijana wetu watapata kazi, hujui vile kilimo itaendelea, hujui vile watoto watasoma. Huna mpango ya ajira ya vijana. You have no plan to do anything.
Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has responded to President Ruto, asserting that by saying he won't hand over to the opposition, he has already accepted defeat in the 2027 elections.
Nimesikia Kasongo amesema akiwa huko Western Kenya ati ya kwamba akishindwa hata hand over kwa watu ambaye hawana plan. Wacha nikuambie Kasongo, umefanya mzuri kukubali utashindwa, hapo umepata. Si ndio? Pahali umeangukia Kasongo. There is no provision of handing over in the Kenya Constitution. What there is assumption of office.
Leaders accompanying the president in Kakamega, including National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula and Bungoma Governor Ken Lusaka, urged the president to ignore government critics and continue implementing his development agenda.
Sisi kama viongozi lazima kila mahali tumuige mfano wa rais wetu. Ulikuja Bungoma kwa maombi kabla kuapishwa. Tukaomba Mungu akupe hekima, akupe afya mzuri na uendelee kuleta nchi yetu pamoja.
Mama mko hapa si ndio? Ukitengeneza chapati unawekanga upande moja ama unapindua? Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Rais amefanya upande moja 5 years, tupindue 5 years iwe chapati ambayo inaweza kukulika. Kweli au rongo?
Ruto's visit to Kakamega County comes just days after Kakamega Senator Boni Khalwale criticized him for focusing more on counties in the Nyanza region in his development efforts. Joash Onsare, TV 47.
A very interesting debate there, and I'm wondering what the risks are when the president declares, because it's on the front page of the Taifa Leo, sitampa mtu kisu, declaring that you will not hand over, although the correction there by the former deputy president that there's no such provision for handing over, it's simply the assumption of office.
Yeah.
But what kind of risk is involved with such kind of statements?
Yeah, some of those statements are so based in the sense that the machine of taking over by the incoming president is so clear that the Constitution does provide. By the time the results are declared and the gazettemen of the team that has won, the president and his deputy or her deputy, the rest is actually basic functions of the Constitution. And if he thinks that he's going to run away from that responsibility, then he's deluding himself. In the sense that, and you know, listen, Fred, he doesn't realize there were two things that he was given. One was the Constitution of the Republic, and the sword. And you realize even at the beginning of time, he displayed the sword more than the Constitution, which means he himself thought that this is about fighting. That sword is actually supposed to protect us. It is not a sword that is supposed to be turned against us like the way he has turned against young Kenyans. But more important is that listen even to Governor Lusaka talking about making government look like chapati. No, really, you cannot equate government to that. If somebody does not meet the threshold in terms of the votes, like the way they know, they are unlikely to get even 40% of all the votes cast. They have to just vacate the place, and it is not we, the politicians, who will give them that vacation notice. It is the people of this country that are already sick and tired. But finally, let me remind my good friend, President William Ruto, that the first assignment of any political formation, whether it's a political party, whether it's a coalition, whether it's a group of individuals who have decided that we are running for office, the first place of call is to take over power. Once you take over power, there is something that we call the manifesto that is supposed to be presented on the eve of elections. And we are not presenting the manifesto to him. We are presenting the manifesto to the people of Kenya to make a choice between us and him. But the most important thing, people know the impunity that has visited, corruption, and many other ills that is afflicting our society are the things that we want to remove him so that we reverse the trend of what is happening. Otherwise, he cannot say he's not going to hand over power. He has no capacity. He has, he has no power to refuse to hand over power.
Okay. Bwana Pugisho, the real concern among Kenyans is that smooth handover or smooth transition from one administration to another, because we saw back in 2007, 2008, what happened when there's a bit of confusion in that process. Such statements could cause a lot of concern to Kenyans. Don't you think that probably this should not be something that should be verbalized in any way?
It's not a slip of the tongue, I'm afraid, because, I mean, the president knew exactly what he was saying. However, the good thing about it is that that was before the 2010 Constitution, which Constitution has made things so simple that the handing over happens without reference to the person previous. So, and he knows that. It's just that, in the process of talking to Wananchi, sometimes you really want to make it look like you have the power to do so. And the Wananchi would think you do, but the Constitution will not allow you to do so. So a few weeks ago, I think there was something that Rigathi said about the next election if you try to steal. And he was attacked. He was really attacked for that. Now as soon as that one is dying, this claim has come up, which means, by the way, it just goes to tell you that what's in the mind of everybody now is how to win the elections of 2027. And the opposition, whatever you call them, the formation of the opposition, that's their idea. And then they're protecting that opportunity that they will take over power from the president. And the president has to find a way of answering the people and saying, no, this is, including saying he will not hand over to people who are agendaless. And first of all, that has been disabused. But he has to give his team the spirit, the strength, the encouragement that we are moving on and that we will not allow this to happen, including the mention of this chapati thing. What my friend Lusaka doesn't know is that as soon as these guys come, they'll turn over the chapati and make it ready. So you don't have to be the one turning it. You can do one side, somebody else comes and does the other side. The whole thing is we make a joke of things which are very, very serious, by the way. The idea that this government should be doing, and sometimes I come to lend advice, the promises they give and the script they use has not changed. They have nothing much has changed. So the promises is what they should be focusing on. And I know that the president keeps repeating, by the way, he keeps repeating his agenda. He mentions housing, medical, and so on. Do those. At least make those look like they're done. And the model for education, all the Ajira for the youth, those are promises you don't want to keep repeating unless you are actually fulfilling them. You know, if you promise people more jobs, which you cannot even provide, you're just making the situation worse. And the young people are waiting to see, where are these jobs? Can we at one time then tell them, okay, you guys have a job here now. We have taken so many of you. You saw, last week we gave those. But people just talk about jobs and there are no evidence of those jobs. So the one thing I realized, which remained the same, Fred, is that the script that Uhuru and Ruto used during their fight is the same script at play today. Fortunately for him, for this situation, the people, the protagonists in this particular political struggle, whatever it is, are a man and his former deputy president. And the script from last year, from the last time, they know it all. They know each other very well. They were good friends. And so the same script is going to happen. What they applied to Uhuru Kenyatta when he was president is being applied, the same pressure is being applied. And I'm just surprised that the responses should have changed by now. But the president saying that, let us, you guys in my team, let us focus and bring peace in this country. First of all, stop all this nonsense. You should tell to his security guys, stop this nonsense. I don't want to hear any more about Kenyans being abducted. I don't want to hear about extrajudicial killings. But let us provide in our budget, let's make sure that we have answered the Kenyans with the response that we're going to do for them, including then this SHA, this education model, these jobs that they're talking about. They should actually make it happen so that Kenyans can have that confidence in them. And you know, I don't know how many times I have to repeat, the thing that they don't see is the trust deficit going away every day. And how do they return trust? You must try to find a way. I think the people who advise the president, and there are many, should have a conference of their own and say, how are we going to return trust? But you don't have to be a genius to hear what people are saying. You don't have to be very far from anyone, even children.
Talking of trust deficit, there's an issue that I was to come to later, but let's examine it now. The appointment of the IEBC, despite there being a court injunction stopping the same, this is a president doing it directly as the appointing authority. The court injunction in place, then he goes ahead and defies it. That speaks to the trust deficit that Wanapugisho is talking about, the fact that this president can do anything. He feels he is beyond the law.
That's true, because you remember the former administration, that is the Jubilee administration, was being accused of not respecting court orders. And I think for purposes of separation of power, there was agreement that Parliament could proceed and do their due process in terms of vetting. But I thought the issue of appointment should have awaited determination by the courts. But as I was saying earlier, a situation where what you said you'll never do is exactly what you are doing when you're in power. And it ties closely to what we were saying. You know, those who are now in the opposition courts, because normally it would be minority, their work is to make sure that Kenyans are aware of what has not been done by the current administration. So that come 2027, then you have strong grounds to get this administration out of power. The work of the administration in power, if they are doing it correctly, would be to focus on the implementation of their manifesto. So that by the year 2027, they will be telling Kenyans, we presented our manifesto to you, and on the basis of that manifesto, you elected our government to be in power. We have delivered on this manifesto, so can you now give us another one term? But now what is happening, both the administration and the opposition, we are all now in politics. And nobody now talks about the manifesto, which is very good for the opposition. And that's why we want to continue that way now. So that come 2027, we'll have very strong grounds to change this administration. And that's why I was saying that's basically the agenda. But all said and done, I just at times sit and ask myself, how much shall we have wasted as a country with a budget, like now we are doing a budget of 4.2 trillion. Last year it was 3.8 trillion. In 5 years, we might be talking about a budget of about 15 or 20 trillion. Now, if we don't get value for the 20 trillion we'll have budgeted for in 5 years, and then we kick this administration out of power, they will go out of power and they'll have gone out with the 20 trillion worth of programs and projects. Will the country have gained on anything? So I really think we need a mechanism to ensure that there is this manifesto they gave us is implemented. Because Kenyans are paying taxes, we are borrowing money from outside to implement the manifesto. So if you don't implement the manifesto, we are losing big as a country. And that's why I think the issue of accountability, we need to take it very serious so that people become accountable. We have given your administration this budget this year. We have come out our way to finance that budget, including where the pay slips of salaried Kenyans are so much squeezed to a level that they can't even do basics. And then after you get all the money, you run around the country doing arambis, doing things that don't make sense. I don't think this is something we should be able to accommodate as Kenyans. So in short, we are saying that we need to change our tactic. And this idea of saying, sitampa mtu kisu 2027, basically, these are threats which will not work. It's just making the environment so toxic that people now continue pushing words to each other. But I can tell you for sure, the person who will determine whether kisu itapeanwa is the voter, not the leaders.
Are you saying that we shouldn't be concerned or worried by these
No, this is just trying to scare. These are scare, because the thing is, once the voter makes a determination of who is the president of Kenya, I'm sure President Ruto knows very well that the keys was only given to him because who wanted to give it to him.
Yeah, the feeling is that we do not really have to stick to the rule of law, that even with court orders we can defy without consequence. And that feeling, if you look at it this way, means that something could happen and there's nothing we'll do about it.
Well, I think the president does listen to the common talk in the bars and in other social places where people have known that he's going to lose the election. But initially people are saying he will not lose because he's going to steal. But I think the stealing has been obviated by the fact that you cannot steal more than 1 million votes unless the margin is small, like 200,000. But it's clear that whoever will be fighting against him is likely to have a gap between 2 to 3 million votes. So he's abandoning that. And others have been saying he may not want to hand over. So he's trying to confirm that as part of fear-mongering for purposes of ensuring that he still retains supporters, or he creates apathy on the side of those of us who want him to get out of office, to say, after all, this guy will steal, this guy will not even abandon, will not hand over power. But I just wanted to assure Kenyans that President Ruto at that particular time, and as I suspect, his Sterling Center may not be around Nairobi. He may want to get out of Nairobi so that if it means he needs some kind of assistance to get out of Kenya temporarily, he's away from Nairobi. Otherwise, on the eve of elections, and immediately the results come in, and it's clear that he's not winning, Nairobi will be full to the extent that even the GSU, the police, the army, will not be able to handle the crowd. Remember the situation in 2002 when Kibaki was declared the winner. It was impossible. And the cabinet of Kibaki, because we get over President Moi, when they were called that morning, before President Moi came to Uhuru Park to hand over power, they thought President Moi still had a card up his sleeves to retain power through another means that they did not even fathom. I remember some of the colleagues said that the cabinet was divided. Others were saying we have to hand over power. Others who had now won seats as members of parliament, and they expected to be ministers, were insisting that we should not hand over power. And of course, it became the intervention of the system, now what we call deep state, to make sure they prevail upon President Moi. And President Moi himself, at some stage, he picked the rungu and he said, let's go hand over. Some of the ministers just drove away. They did not go to, I did not see many of those ministers when we were in Uhuru Park. So the same situation will arrive for President Ruto, that he will realize that he is alone. Even some of his ministers will not leave their houses, wherever they will be, because the town, I'm trying to paint a picture for him so that he stops creating fear-mongering among the people of Kenya. That situation, you are left as an individual, and you are left between yourself and your God. So I would want to advise him, that because he has not lost elections, I have lost myself. And at that particular moment, you realize that you are ordinary Kenyan, the same ID that you used to have. So I am sure, at the right time, he's going to accept that he's going to be a former president.
Right, I want us to move to a different story about the sustainability of the broad-based government, especially given the events of last week and what is happening to the police. Many people have questioned whether or not the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga could still be in full agreement with these happenings, especially with the killing of Albert Ojwang. Let's watch that story on the broad-based government's future in doubt. All right. So as we look for that story, do you think that probably there could be serious cracks within the broad-based working arrangement, given that some of what is happening right now may not be what Raila Odinga stands for? You know his history, Bwana Pogisio.
Fred, there are cracks, and it's because of both sides, not one side. It's both sides. If you watch UDA leaders as well, some of them, first of all, some of them did not like the whole thing about broad-based, and you can see them speak very directly to the president sometimes about what they're not happy with. And then, of course, then you have this other situation where the ODM side, there may be one or two ODM MPs who just got excited about this broad-based arrangement, that they're crazy. They sound like they're the ones running the government. But when these things happen, this one here, and many others that have happened, you can see the displeasure with which the leaders of ODM, including the leader himself, are speaking. And they're beginning to doubt this arrangement of broad-based government. And even worse is when the president says he will not hand over power, that will rile, that definitely will really annoy and rile somebody like Raila, who stands out as a guy who defends the Constitution. And you can't say that. In fact, that headline is very unfortunate for this country. Very unfortunate. It should not come from Kenya. Even our neighbors cannot say that, and the surrounding neighbors, they cannot say that. And it cannot be said in Kenya. And so you're already offending the relationship that you thought were based on broad, just bringing peace, bring sanity to Kenya and trying to stabilize the situation. This is one of the things that was about to break that relationship, especially if there are no answers. And I've heard the Prime Minister speak as hard as he could. I've heard people like Gladys Wanga, the chairman of the party, right, and so on. You find the people are saying it as it is. The only people who might not say it are those who are already in the broad-based arrangement, who are ministers and things like that. But you can hear everybody saying, this is not what we bargained for. This was not in the arrangement. In fact, I've heard the Secretary General himself saying that we have an agreement, and part of this agreement is no more this, no more this, including extrajudicial killings. And so it is already a starting crack. It's a starting point of crack. And I'm telling you, I don't know, you cannot measure that size of the size of that crack now until this situation is resolved.
Even as we mark the anniversary of the events of the 25th of June last year, in a few months' time, I think in 2-3 months, we'll be marking the anniversary of the broad-based agreement. Do you think, from your own perspective, and you sit with those colleagues in Parliament, do you feel that the feeling is still the same, that the enthusiasm about the broad-based working arrangement is still as high as it was back then?
I can tell you for sure there is a problem. And I think the person who captured the spirit well is SG Sfuma. When he said our MOU with the Huda side did not include extrajudicial killing. The other day you saw the Oman Bay women rep when she went to the mortuary to check on what was happening with Ojwang, being chased away by the public. And that's the mood. Our colleagues who come from Oman Bay, they are in between a hard place, a rock and a hard place. That they still feel we are part of this broad-based government, but we are not getting what we bargained for. And on that basis, to any politician, and any smart politician, when things get to that level, you go back to your people. So you take the position of your people. And I can tell you, if there's a time the broad-based government has faced stability challenge, it is this time. And don't be surprised to see now some of them saying, we are not part of this government. They start starting their own plans to make sure that they retain their seats come 2027. Because what is happening basically, and the worst is what happened to Ojwang. You know, Ojwang comes from Homa Bay. So the fire now has been thrown to their village. And the Wananchi are watching, how do you deal with this fire in your village, as you claim to be part of that broad-based government. Matters budget, they gained a lot. If you look at the budgets, they gained a lot in terms of programs being proposed to go that direction. But I can tell you for sure, this death might be the stroke that will break the camel's back.
Yes. Raila Odinga twice, I think the first time in December while in Homa Bay, he talked about extrajudicial killings and asking the president to ensure an end to that. He has made similar statements in recent weeks. He has been very consistent about this issue, yet nothing appears to be changing and the headlines are not helping anything either. Do you think even him, he's fighting his own conscience with regard to his working arrangement with the president?
Well, I just imagine that Raila Odinga is well-intentioned and possibly when they were signing the agreement, which in my opinion, when you look, you discern that particular agreement, it was superfluous in the sense that almost 8 out of 10 or 11 of those issues that they had raised were no more government deliverables, which you don't need to sign with a government that claims that it's a national government with an agenda for the entire country. You don't need to sign to reinforce. The most critical things that perhaps should have been in that particular issue is the reduction of graft, doing away with these extrajudicial killings, impunity, display of lagis, and many other ills that this government is known to be carrying out every other day. Otherwise, signing that you shall do one issues of governance, issues of that is provided for under the current constitution and apparatus of operation. Now, what I feel is that Raila is just looking for an opportunity because he's also a political mammo and he knows that if he doesn't run in the next election, his party is going to reduce in terms of the size, both in parliament and also in various counties. And I know that even if he doesn't win the presidency, he needs ODM to still retain the numbers that he has today, about 83 members of National Assembly and a number of senators and governors. So possibly Raila is just looking for an opportunity to bolt away from President William Ruto. I don't see Raila supporting President William Ruto to run unless Ruto decides that he himself now is going to abandon his party, UDA, and morph into ODM member, which he has been claiming is one of the founder members. That's the only way possibly Raila can support him. Otherwise, ODM is going to present a presidential candidate, whatever the case, because they have to sustain itself. Because any party that does not present a presidential candidate and has a number of seats must be a strong party. Remember, the Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, 4 times, he has not been a presidential candidate himself, but he has retained that constituency against an uphill task that people want to see you in the ballot to realize that, yes, you are serious about appropriating power to yourself and to the people that, work with you. Finally, on this particular issue, I think the dead nail on this issue is this extrajudicial killing. I don't see this regime stopping it. I just pray that between now and the next election, fewer Kenyans will be killed. Otherwise, this is a rogue system, a system that has no respect for humanity, a regime that does not believe in the rule of law. No wonder the current president opposed the Constitution twice, 2005 and 2010. And therefore, he does not believe in the spirit and the letter of the current Constitution.
All right. And now that you've mentioned Kalonzo Musyoka, as we continue with this issue of politics, he's been pictured or caricatured in a cartoon today on the Standards, and it would appear that those who seem to suggest that he would be interested in a position or working arrangement with the president. The deputy president appears to have been sent out on a mission to try and woo him. You've worked with Bwana Kalonzo Musyoka. He said over and over again he cannot work with William Ruto. I don't know. Do you feel that probably with all these arrangements and rearrangements and the fact that there are doubts on whether or not the broad-based arrangement will be sustainable, that there could be a possibility that Kalonzo Musyoka could cross over to the other side?
Yeah, Fred, I have definitely have worked with Kalonzo. We've campaigned with him, and I used to be the national chairman of the party. And when people think he is what you call a watermelon, they don't know that if you haven't agreed and watched up to now, that the only person now holding the opposition together, or holding the minority, whatever you call it, together, is actually Kalonzo's stance right now. And all the people who are coming around him, the good thing about him and having worked with him is that he has the nation at heart. Is this a guy who can decide this, okay, I know I can win, but for sake of stability of the country, let's support so and so to be their candidate. And he has done so many, many times. Kalonzo wants good for the country. And for those who are still waiting to see if you can convince him, first of all, how does, I don't understand, how does even the deputy president, the current deputy president, how do you give him an assignment like that to go and find Kalonzo where? And where are you going to start even the conversation about what?
It seems to be the promise of a big seat reserved for, they say big seat reserved for you with love, UDA.
Kalonzo has been the vice president of the country. Kalonzo has been a minister of whatever seat you want to give him, he has been there. Kalonzo has no desire for any of those seats. And by the way, it's already too late in the day to even try and bring Kalonzo on board. Where he is, and you can see the determination. You know, the thing about it, most people can actually misread Kalonzo's demeanor. It's just a matter of misreading. The resolve that guy has is actually bigger than most of the people, but he does just not show that he's the kind of person. You can see from his demeanor, you can see from his speeches, he's firm, he's got the position that this country deserves a better leadership. And so, and I really hope, my own hope, I hope that this time Kalonzo becomes the candidate that we take forward. But even if he doesn't become the candidate, there's no way you can convince him now. And I'm not speaking, I'm not speaking for him. I just know how strong, how strong-willed that gentleman is.
Makalimulu, this is your party leader. Do you feel that this depiction is a bit unfair to him? He could be craving for watermelon.
Extremely unfair. And I think, you know, Honorable Kalonzo is my party leader. And I can actually speak for him because I spent a lot of time with him. Like yesterday, we were with him. And this is what I want to say. Big seat reserved for Honorable Kalonzo. Which seat are we talking about? The president is gone. The deputy president, Gidigi, is there. So unless Gidigi is telling us he wants to step out so that Kalonzo can come in, and then the other project, big political seat would only be a speaker, which is also occupied. Let me just tell you what is happening. After the 2022 elections, you remember Honorable Kalonzo was being offered the seat of a speaker in the Kenya Kwanza administration, which he declined. And that is the third, in terms of rank, the third highest ranking office in the land. And he declined at that time. Now, what would be really attractive for Kalonzo to join the Kenya Kwanza administration now? We have less than 2.5 years to the end of the term. This government we are talking about is government which has a lot of blood in the hands, killing Gen Zs and all that. You want Kalonzo to be part of that team which will be saying, I got this position as a result of our children being killed. I don't think that that's the Kalonzo I know. But what is happening, this Kenya Kwanza administration has realized that the only person who has a solid block behind him, whether he's a presidential candidate or not, is Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka. And this has been confirmed. 2013, Kalonzo supporters voted for Raila when Kalonzo was the proposed DP. 2017, Kalonzo supporters supported Raila Amolo Odinga when he was a proposed DP. To make things worse, 2022, when he was not even a DP, he decided to support Honorable Raila and Honorable Martha Karua and became just like Makali Mulu was looking for an MP's position. He still delivered his block. So all these things you see is a very deliberate move to see whether they can get Kalonzo out of the forming coalition so that they create mistrust between him and their colleagues. And I can tell them, tumewaonea mbali. At 18, we are seeing them at 18. They will not win it. Kalonzo is very determined, and I can tell you for sure, yesterday we were in a church and he did say it, that there's nothing he can do to join this government, which he called it, with him he called it broad-based, but the congregation called it blood-based. That was the congregation, it wasn't him.
Yeah, they say in politics there are no permanent enemies.
Really afraid, you will see more of this, and we have prepared our party leader that you will see more of this. These orchestrated moves to defeat him, to show him as a person who has no stand, so that these colleagues who are coming can start now say we can't trust him, and since we can't trust him, we don't have to work with him. But he's very, as Honorable Pogisho said, he used to be our chair of the Wiper Party at one point. And even Kirwa, they are friends. This is somebody we know. What the papers want to put him to be, and we suspect that there's the hand of, you know, the NIs is very good crafting some of these things.
Bwana Kirwa here was once a very senior party member of the UDA party as well.
Yes.
Anything can happen in politics. There are no permanent friends or enemies.
But I can assure you, even if they were to offer the position of president to Kalonzo Musyoka, I would not accept, because we will know these are individuals who, with some very draconian tactics, they can offer you that particular position, but within no time, they can also impeach you the way they impeached Rigathi Gachagua. And the way Mheshimiwa said, he's seen them from 18, we see them as they get into the field with their uniform, that they are not well-intentioned. Let me assure them that we are not looking for just one leader in our part of the coalition. We are looking for a team of leaders who have some level of trust and who are also able to manage their egos so that we deliver as a team. The main problem that Kenya Kwanza has is that there is only one individual who has been given the leeway to decide what he wants to decide, to do what he wants to do, and therefore micromanage the institution of government. decimate parliament, decimate constitutional commissions, decimate even the organization within the executive to the extent that even today, at gunpoint, you cannot say where the government seal is, whether it is in the State House or in the office of the Attorney General. And the Attorney General used the right words in English. He said legally that seal is supposed to be in the office of the Attorney General, but she did not tell us physically whether the seal is in our office. So these are some of the things that we see, and that kind of confusion, whether it is Kalonzo Musyoka or any one of us, we cannot be part of that equation unless we want to destroy this country.
All right. We are out of time. I think we have about 6 minutes or so. I'll give each one of you about 2 minutes for your final comments. I'm sure there's some very many stories we would have talked about. 1,000 days of President William Ruto and what he has done in terms of diplomacy, which is on the front page of the Daily Nation. Other issues, is this his last major budget? You could decide to talk about any of those. Bwana Pogisio.
Thank you, Fred. I think for me, really, there are two things that stand out. One is the trust deficit that William has to work on, but mostly on this issue of Ojwang, the current issue that we're doing. If he can talk about this issue and get things done, it's resolved, he may regain a little bit of trust. But if this issue goes on protracted, the current situation worsens the trust deficit. He's still the president of our country. He's the one who has the next 2 years to complete, bring peace to this country, and help us to grow as a country economically. Help understand the needs of the common person who is actually suffering. You know, when we speak about the common person, you look at it. Every day, very few people are the ones enjoying, you know, life in this country. There are many who are downtrodden. So one of them is this Ojwang family. Listen to the parents, the father. Listen to his wife and child. Listen to their cries, and please resolve this matter.
Okay, thank you, Bwana Pogisio.
Yeah, Fred, what I can say and ask my fellow Kenyans is that, it's not lost. One thing I don't know whether we should thank God or what. We have an economy which is very resilient. That despite being beaten right, left, and a lot of leakages, we still have a country to talk about. And we have an economy which is strong. Regionally, the economy is doing well, but I think really we can do much better. We can do much better. So that's why I say, let's not lose hope. Can we continue pushing hard, demanding for accountability? On the political front, the propaganda you see which has started on my party leader, we will see more of this, even on the other leaders. And politically, let's be prepared so that we are wise enough to see when this propaganda is being pushed to take the opposition to a different direction. We must be smart and firm so that we get this government out of power come 2027. And I want to assure them, kisu itapeanwa wakati ukifika.
Kisu kitapeanwa. Bwana Kirwa, you finish it for us.
Yes, I just want to urge the government that they should not isolate us as a regional bloc within the Horn of Africa and the rest of Africa, because there are so many goofs that have been made because of perhaps personal interest, that you realize some of our arms I've seen in Sudan being pervaded by those who are in the opposition or who are fighting the government. And of course, and many other things that are happening within the region. It is not good because this country relies on trade and transactions within this particular region and the rest of Africa. But finally, I just want to urge leaders on either side of the divide that let us tone down our utterances so that we are able to create some harmonious atmosphere, that we present our manifestos without level of hate. And I just want to assure them that the word cousin, in Kiswahili, cousin is ndugu. Because in my language, and I'm sure even in the language of Dr. Mulu, the word cousin does not exist. So what we've been referring to as cousin is ndugu. And we need to improve that Undugu because that is part of the Hutu that we require as a people of this country. And all these communities of Kenya, they are interrelated in one way or the other. And therefore, it was not Bantu versus Nilotes. Otherwise, I would not be part of that equation because I'm a Nilote, but I have so many cousins across the floor and across the country.
So you consider yourself a cousin there as well?
I'm a cousin to him,
okay.
And I'm a cousin to Mheshimiwa Pogisio,
okay.
Because in Kiswahili, Undugu is a cousin.
Okay.
Yeah, and Undugu by virtue of having common heritage as a country called Kenya.
All right. And on that brotherly note, we bring this discussion to a close. Thank you so much, Kipruto Arap-Kirwa, who has served as Agriculture Minister and also as MP for Cherangani. Samuel Pogisio, who has served as Senate Majority Leader in the 12th Parliament, Senator West Pokot, MP Kachiliba, and ICT Minister in Kibaki II administration. And the current MP for Kitui Central, Makali Mulu, our panelist this morning on State of the Nation. A lot to talk about. We may not have been able to handle all the discussions. There's a big story on the front page of the Daily Nation, and thank you for mentioning it. Exposed Kenya's arms in Sudan war. And you could read this story on pages 2 and 3 of this paper. Shameless top cops, that's a big one on the Standard. I think it's only the Star that found time to talk about the budget on the front page. Talk about debt crisis, wastage dominates CS Mbadi, 4 trillion shilling budget talk. Of course, the National Assembly will be debating this matter of the budgets, and we do expect the finance bill next week as we anticipate the end of this financial year. After the break, Monday Blitz, Duncan Mutua and Fred Arocho will be in studio alongside a number of their guests discussing what's happening with Chan, AFCON, plus all the sports coming from the weekend. Kenya Police FC finally winning the Premier League title in Kenya. My name is Fred Indemuli. See you again tomorrow morning.